What's up, Caitlin? So last time, sorry guys, we can't even, but last time you were giving us a couple teasers because you were on your way. I think it was the day before you left for Get Your Teach On in Orlando. And I had never heard of it. I just was following you on your stories and it seemed freaking awesome. So what is Get Your Teach On? What was your role? And just what did you get out of that whole experience?
Okay, so oh my gosh, it was absolutely incredible. Get Your Teach On is a national conference for teachers. It is all about, it's known as like the most encouraging and exciting week in education. It's supposed to bring teachers and help them reignite that passion and that fire for teaching. There's keynote speakers like Dave Burgess, and we also had Mario Lopez and Clint Pulver and like these incredible educators who are coming in and sharing their stories. And then there's also breakout sessions. So I was a breakout session for middle school and high school social studies, and it was absolutely incredible. I mean, I got to present to teachers from all across the country, all about like being revolutionary in history and how to like really create these amazing magical lessons in your classroom. And I mean, it was just so good to be around other educators who are just so excited. And I met some incredible people like Nicholas Ferroni. I met Daniel Patterson from Patterson Perspective, like just these amazing people that I've looked up to for so long. And so it was just really, really exciting to be there. And I'm just very blessed to have been presenting.
Yeah, I had some serious FOMO. That's just something I learned from my students. Fear of missing out. When I was watching your stories, I was like, oh my God, like I've been to AVID conferences and different programs, like some summer programs are not the most inspiring and AVID is pretty cool, but I was seeing what was going on there and I was like, whoa, this is pretty next level, and kind of feel like it gave me the impression that it made teachers feel like they often should, like rock stars. And as I was watching your stories and following, I was like, oh my gosh, that's awesome stuff. And hopefully, that's why Caitlin and I are here, because we're trying to bring that fuel, bring that fire over right into your headphones, right into your car speaker, into your laptop every week. Yes. And, but yeah, the whole thing sounds all pretty magical. And wouldn't you know it?
Yeah, it was.
We are going to be getting into. Yeah, we are going to be getting into how to create some magic in your classrooms, and that's going to be our focus today,
it's
right, Caitlin?
Like we have a whole series planned for you.
Absolutely, and we cannot wait to get into it. So here we go. Do you love teaching?
Do you love history?
Do you need inspiration, positive engagement strategies, and a place to connect with other awesome teachers?
This is the PLC of your dreams, filled with energy, invigorating strategies, tips, tricks, and revolutionary ideas. The History Teachers Club podcast starts now.
Well, welcome to the club. So teachers out there, and this is for all teachers, even though we're kind of focusing on history teachers, this magic that we're going to be bringing you is, of course, an acronym, because teachers just can't get enough acronyms. Yes. We like to use them with our students. The DOE just bombards us with them
every day.
And we just got an absolutely awesome one. And so this magic, Caitlin's going to explain each of the letters, and we're going to be focusing on just one a week for the next 5 weeks. And you're going to be so excited to just sprinkle this magical fairy dust all over your lessons throughout the year, all over your pedagogy. And yeah, so what is magic? What are we in store for?
Okay, so over the next 5 weeks, we're going to have scripted out lessons, or not lessons, but we're going to have, episodes each week that is going to focus on a different topic. Today's lesson, or I keep calling it lessons because I'm in teacher mode, but today's episode is all about manifesto. Like it's so much deeper than your why. And I'm going to get into that, and like what is going to bring you back every single day, your true purpose for teaching. And then A is for action. So what are those actionable steps, those actionable things you're actually doing? Because as teachers, we're very much like performers. What acting things are you doing in the classroom to create magic for your kids? G is for genuine, and we have a very exciting guest speaker for that episode. I cannot wait to reveal to you who that's going to be, guys.
We'll keep it secret? Oh, yeah.
So it's going to be all about how to be genuine with your kids. Yes, we're going to keep it a secret. Just for now. You'll have to pay attention to Instagram to see more. So G is for genuine, right? How can we be genuine not only of ourselves, but with our kids and help them feel like they're in a safe space, especially in social studies, in topics that are hard to teach. And then, I is for ignite. How do we ignite that fire and that passion and that creativity in our kids? And what are some really ignited lessons that you could pull or strategies you could pull into your room? And then C is for community, right? It's important that we create a community of like-minded educators who have very similar dispositions, so that you don't lose that fire and that magic in your classroom, so you can carry it with you every step, every day.
Yeah, and we'll do our best, because just like to share a few inspiring teachers that you might want to reach out to, that you might want to follow on social media, and some great different groups that you can join to find that community, because we need each other now more than ever as things are getting difficult. So yeah, I'm excited for the whole magic.
Yes, we definitely do.
Yeah. So
it's going to be magical, guys.
Can't wait. I need to get in costume. A little lightning scar.
Magic a lot.
Yep. We're getting all Hogwarts on you now.
Yes. No, speaking of magic, you guys can't see it yet, but I put on my little magic hat. Like it's very magical. Ooh.
Yeah. Okay. Go figure. You got a costume
all right,
that goes with the magic theme. Go figure. As you'll get to know Caitlin, she's got a costume for, it seems like, everything. So it's awesome.
There is a costume for everything. Anyway, okay. So let's dive deep into what is a manifesto, because that is why we are here today. I'm just so excited about today, you guys, because it's deeper than your why, right? This is so much deeper. It's your call to action. It's what are you trying to accomplish as a history teacher, right? So there's going to be a few examples. Everybody talks about, why do we learn history? We talked about this in episode 1. Sometimes people think, we're teaching history so it doesn't repeat itself. But if that's really our reasoning, then that doesn't make sense, because so often history repeats itself. But a lot of history teachers come in thinking like, oh, I want to teach because, I had a coach who had a really big impact on me and I want to make that big impact. Those are great stories and those are great, like, surface level reasons. Your manifesto goes so much deeper, right? This isn't that simple PD at the beginning of the year where teachers, they get this professional development leader person to come in and who hasn't taught in 30 years, who tries to tell you, remember your why. Teachers teach for the outcome, not the income, right? No, but it's so much deeper than that. It's about getting kids to go back out into the world, because if we're thinking of kids as the future, we're already thinking too late, right? Kids are the change that we need now. And so we have to pour into that change now so that we can see that future create itself. And so your manifesto is deep inside of you. I keep saying it speaks to your soul, but when you really know what your manifesto is, you can go out and create those magical lessons and teach from your heart and be genuine. And the lessons are so much more powerful when you have a true cause, a true backing, deeper than, oh, I want to make an impact like this coach made an impact on me, or deeper than, I just don't want history to repeat itself, or I know these facts and I want to be able to share my love of history. It has to be so much deeper than that. And so we're going to kind of share our manifestos, right? And how you can still use those. And it helps you set boundaries in the classroom. It helps you be a better teacher, because the biggest determining factor in success in your classroom is you. You determine the success in your classroom. You are the magic. You make all of those things happen for your kids. So we need to have big, deep, not so surface level reasons to keep you going when you go into survival mode, right? Because as we all know, it's been a really tough year. And it's probably going to continue to be tough. We need deep reasons that we can pull from when teaching gets hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like Keelan said, it's great to have to go into teaching, to want to have an impact, to be there for kids. That's great. And what we're just trying to say is if you can find something deeper and really think about why you're there and what you want to achieve, it's that you have a guiding light that not only will pull you through the dark times, but it'll kind of keep you focused on what you are trying to achieve. And it'll make you feel you won't doubt yourself as much, because you might have naysayers, you might have administrators who are not supportive, you might have teachers that are not supportive next to you, you might have a student or a parent who's not on board with your style or how you're teaching. But if you know that you're being true to yourself and this is what you're really pushing for and what you really believe in, then it'll get you through there. Because before I get into mine, I'll just share a quick little story. My first year, so for any of you guys first year teachers or second year teachers that just finished your first year, those of you going into teaching, I had a rough first year. I had especially one class where there was a whole bunch of subs. I was hired 6 weeks into the school year, and they were determined to drive me out. Like the teachers around me said, "Oh, period 6 is gunning for you. They have bets on how quickly they can get you out of the classroom." So they were had a contest on how they could frustrate me, drive me nuts, be uncooperative, and I could barely get on the bus. I was taking the bus that time to school, and I could barely get on the bus in the morning. I would look back like almost a kid going to kindergarten, looking at my wife would drop me off, and I would be pawing at the window because it was hard. But
do I have to go?
honestly, it was so tough for me that first year, but I knew why I wanted to be there. I knew I had a higher purpose for myself that pulled me through. And when I had little successes along the way, I was like, okay, that's why I can keep going. So my manifesto, why I'm teaching and teaching history particularly, is yes, I want to have a big impact on kids and to be the teacher that believes in them and supports them and helps them. But I really think in the classroom, when they walk away from history class, and what I hope my students walk away from my classroom is that they are empowered, that they have a whole bunch of skills that they have developed in my class, critical thinking skills, knowledge that can be a source for them, and to be productive citizens in the world. And thoughtful citizens, and to think critically about those decisions that we are, that we get to make, that we have rights to be able to make, but also the responsibility to be able to make as citizens in a republic, in a democracy. So I want them to grapple with big ideas in my classroom, to think critically about tough issues, and to walk away knowing that, wow, I've learned something that I can use. Because when I was in school, I became pretty radicalized. When I was borderline on the anarchy. I was borderline on the anarchy train, when I was in high school, and I was into punk rock,
I love that. Oh my gosh. My
brother kind of pulled me into it, and he was in punk rock politics, and then I got absorbed into it. And we were very involved. We had community organizations that we started. We would feed homeless. We would, put on concerts and art shows, and it was so empowering. And I felt, and then then I had a history teacher on top of that who really had our classroom where we would just sit in circles and talk about big issues, and he would let the reins go, and we would be able to just think deeply about issues. And it forever changed me, those two things. And I want my classroom, I want to be a teacher that gets students feeling empowered, feeling like they are taking things away from my classroom that's useful for the real world and can be responsible, productive, and thoughtful citizens. So that's kind of my guiding light, to make them better people and better citizens from what I can expose them to and get them to think about.
Right. And I love how you talked about your path to discovering that for yourself. It like happened for a lot of us. It's going to happen when we're young, right? And for others, like, okay, so I never thought I was going to be a history teacher. I wanted to be an actress, and then I wanted to be a politician. I wanted to do all of these amazing things, right? I always knew that I wanted to have a huge impact and to have like wide sweeping, like people thinking and doing and making change. And so like my manifesto, like if I'm going to tell like my why, right, it's so much deeper than that. But, you know, like I became a teacher, actually because I had gotten really involved in my local government when I was a senior in high school. I won my city's pageant. I started our city's youth council. Like I was super involved in local government. And then when I went to college, I decided I was going to major in education. Well, actually, I was going to major in political science. And then I had a professor who basically gave a test, and it was a horrible test. We all bombed it. And being the fiery, feisty girl that I've always been, I decided to fight this professor and say, you know, I think this is wrong. Like, I think this is terrible. Why are you teaching us this way? Why are you trying to blame us for your shortcomings in this test? You guys, I fought hard in this lecture hall of like 300 students. And then basically, he told me to see him after class. And instead of telling me like, I'm kicking you out of my class because I thought that was what's going to happen, he was like, no, you need to be a teacher. Whoa. And that's when it all clicked, right? Like I can make real change from the ground level because I've always been so passionate about like, get out there, go vote, use your voice, speak up, stand up for what you believe in, right? That is my manifesto. But bigger than that, like when I look back on that professor and why I didn't like him, yes, he changed my life and all of that, but like why I didn't like him was because he sucked out the love that I had for political science and for history. He made it so dry and so boring and so awful every day to be in class. Like I hated the Constitution taking this man's class, and now I carry a Constitution with me everywhere I go. Like, so, I mean, I like seriously, there's always a Constitution on me all the time. And so, I mean, it's finding that fire inside of yourself and saying, no, this is what I believe in, and this is how I'm going to change the world. So for me, my manifesto is much deeper than just getting kids involved in history and in social studies. It's about finding that fire for them and telling them, go push and stand out and start a revolution for yourself. Be the change you want to see now, because you're not the future, you're today. If we're waiting for you to make the change, I know I've said that like 8 times today.
Preach.
Waiting for them to make the change is too late. Yeah. Right? And so like when teaching really gets hard, we all have that, like, hopefully we all have that lesson. I mean, I've had it a few times. I'm blessed enough to be able to say that there have been a few lessons that when I'm doing it, it's like you feel the actual fire inside of you going, yes, this is why I teach. And you can't help but sit there and smile and feel like you are creating real magic, and your kids come up to you and say, that was a great lesson, right? And so we wanted to share like just a few to help you see that like you can do this too. And maybe it'll help you find your manifesto. And so do you want to share, Stan?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with like kind of it's a small lesson, I would say, but it's powerful, and it always gets the kids like they are super interested in the lesson, and they're talking and they're sharing about it. And it's after we study the Holocaust, which is like towards the end of the year. And what I like to focus on for the first couple of years, I focused on, obviously focus on the tragedy of the Holocaust, but then I realized like, wait, that leaves them so depressing, so miserable, which they need, because that's part of, you got to feel that when you're studying the Holocaust, because that's, you're dealing with the, most evil part of human history, probably. But I started to focus also on people who fought back and resisted, the Warsaw Uprising. So we go into that, and we go into the White Rose, the students in Germany. I love anytime I can focus on students like Malala and whatnot, to be like, this could be you, like, it's not just, people out there who are adults and politicians and whatever who are making change. Like, so we focus on that sort of thing. And then I close the unit with the first they came poem, right? And I write it huge on a back bulletin board. And so I have students help me with, with make it nice and decorative. First they came for the trade unionist, and I did not speak up. And then what we do is we read it several times together, and then they get in reading groups and they answer a whole bunch of different critical thinking questions about it. And then what I have them do is I tell them, all right, this next part is optional. You do not have to do this next part. But if you do it, you're agreeing to a forever homework assignment. And what you do is you go get a piece of construction paper, and there's like kind of rainbow colors, which is going to look really cool on the bulletin board. And they write down, what do you take away from this poem, and how will you remember to speak up when time comes, when something like this happens again? What will you do?
Right.
So I say, you can write anything you want. So I just open the doors, and honestly, every single kid goes back and they're quiet when they're doing it. Like while they're working, it's like they're taking it seriously. They're thinking about what to write. So they take like a Sharpie or a marker. They cut out their hand first of all. So they trace their hand on the construction paper, and they can design any way they want. They can put up like a resist fist. They can put up a peace sign. I'm in Hawaii, so a lot of the kids do shakas, or whatever. And they can design it. They can put, a bracelet on it or whatever. And then they write their message. And I say by putting it on the board, you're remembering it. So like read it to yourself when you put it up, and read it to a friend. And oftentimes they're reading it to several friends. And it stays on the board for the rest of the year. And honestly, like the kids, even though it's like I'll share another lesson that's like a bigger one, but this one just, I don't know, there's something about it that I feel that it hits the kids hard because they're taking it seriously, and they're like, I could just feel it resonating with them, the way they're sharing with one another more than I ask them to share with one student, but they're often sharing with multiple, and they're in the back of the room reading other people's, so anytime they're showing deeper interest than what you're requiring of them hits. And it's just getting them to realize, I think that's one of the most important messages for students is you can't sit silent. Silence always helps the oppressor. You need to take action. You need to do and the other thing is like the Holocaust. Yes, it's history, but we know that things like this and terrible, genocides and injustices happen every day. The injustices, and what are we gonna do?
That is so empowering.
Yeah. So,
like seriously, I can't help but just like,
and then lastly,
that is the goal, right? Like
that's on the back of the board, and then I leave that there for the rest of the school year. So maybe there's another couple of weeks, and then when the next year's freshmen come in, it's there. So I leave it there all summer, and those kids, and they come in and they're reading the poem. It's in their head, and then I take it down within the first week, and then put up their work as they start doing cool work. And then when I put it back up there at the end of the year, they're like, I remember that. So it was kind of like a little teaser that they see it in the beginning, and then they get to participate in. And then like I keep the hands, and I should almost like give it back to them when they're seniors, when they're graduating. Like, hey, remember this? I'm just saying like, that would have been kind of cool. I have them write letters to themselves, and I give it to them at graduation when they're freshmen, and then I give it to them when they're seniors. But I should, that hand would be cool if I put it in the letter. So that's why we're doing this podcast. That's good fuel for me for next year. So what?
Yes.
Good so I'm waiting in anticipation. What is your like lesson?
Okay. So, oh my gosh. Okay. So my whole thing, I am such a government girly. So I am very I love debate. I love understanding why people believe what they believe, and really getting it. Have a tendency to argue. I'm not even gonna lie, because that is what I loved so much. Because I told you earlier, I wanted to be a politician, right? I wanted to. I had campaign.
You're trying to overthrow your professors.
It's actually my username is. Yes. No, I was like, vote for Kate because she's great. That's why my username is the Great Kate. So it's all based in my manifesto, right? So I was hell-bent that I was going to make history the fun subject, right? And that my big thing is that I've always wanted kids to be excited about government, because if we are excited about government, okay, all change is local change, right? If they are fighting and working hard in their local government, change will wave out and they will be in a better society, right? Like, it's just going to happen. Now, there are a lot of roadblocks in their way, and they are going to feel discouraged, but you have to give them that fire and that passion within themselves. And I'm such a government girly, whether I'm teaching history or I'm teaching civics. And so one of my favorite lessons of all time, I actually stole from a friend, and I've made it my own, because the way I teach it to Title I school.
Me too.
And so the way I teach it is not going to be the way he teaches it at all. He's at a private school in Georgia. His name is Mr. Barry628. If you want to follow him on Instagram, shout out. Hi, Matt. Anyway, so it's the Continental Congress simulation. I have them take on the role. They do research, and they take on the role of a delegate, and they have to play the actual part of this delegate. And they have to know the ins and outs of this person, stand up for what they believe in, and to fight for whether or not we're going to declare independence. And then we do it again later when we're drafting the Constitution. And it's just so empowering. It helps kids see, like, they get real into it. And they have to know what rights they're fighting for, why those rights matter, and why they believe what they believe. And that makes me feel like when I have them see from another person's perspective, from all the way back in 1776 and 1783, all the way back then, they can identify, like, look, there were problems with the past. They can see that some of these men had views they might not agree with now, but they can understand why that person believes what they believe. And that translates into a skill they can carry on into their life in the real world. And that is something I want them to be able to do, not only stand up for what they believe, but see why other people believe what they believe too. And take that power inside of themselves and turn it into voting power and belief within themselves that their voice is important and worthy of being heard and absolutely can make change. And so I want history, especially government, to be the most exciting subject. To me, there is no reason that it shouldn't be the subject that they look forward to every single day. Like I said last time, our kids can find X, but can they find the Ukraine? Like, I want them to be able to find their own opinions, and like, it's the one subject that takes all the other subjects and pulls them in. So if you can find that fire and that passion within you, like, it can be for anything. Whatever your manifesto is, it should speak from your soul and should be something that you are trying with every fiber of your being. Maybe not every lesson, because I know I'm a little bit over the top. Like, my Continental Congress lesson, I transformed my entire classroom. There's green tablecloths. I do the same layout. There's candles. There's everything. And luckily last year, I mean, I'm so lucky, right? Like, it was the middle of September in Texas, and the AC just so happened to cut out, and I was dressed as George Washington.
You're in it, right? It was Independence. That was Philadelphia in the summer, right? So, or the convention, was that summer too? When was the convention? I think that was summer too, right? May.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it was summer too. But regardless, like, it's about creating those moments, turning your passion into, like, something kids can really see. Because as I said, you are the biggest determining factor of success in your classroom. So you got to take that passion, that manifesto, and turn it into actionable steps, which we're going to talk about next week in the next episode, of how you take that manifesto and turn it into the magic you can see in your room that you're actually doing with your kids every day. And I'm not saying it needs to be 180 days out of 180 days, because you will kill yourself doing that. But
that carries you through and has that.
Kids are sitting there saying, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. So next week it's going to be really.
So we hope this has been inspiring. I mean.
No, I am. And hopefully you guys are too. But yeah, so next week is going to be really, like, we're going to be going over lots of different strategies and different, like, very actionable things. So do make sure you tune in next week when we get into action and continue this magic with you guys. And before we go, it's everyone's favorite topic of the podcast. We got dad jokes in history, and we're still deciding on a consequence.
Dad jokes in
We are still
history.
deciding on a consequence.
Yes, actually, we're gonna hold a
So
poll.
if I can get
on
Caitlin to
Instagram,
laugh, which I guess sometimes is very easy, depending on how much coffee and
dad
Red Bull
joke.
she's had. There's got to be a consequence. We'll figure that out. But as of now, I will just try to make her laugh or roll her eyes. But if I just get dead silence, then I know I got to work on my dad jokes. But I love sharing dad jokes. Sometimes the worse they are, the kids just love them, right? And another teacher of mine, he's a PE teacher. He shares a dad joke every day. And I'm like, and his was just random, right? Like, did you hear about the guy who evaporated? He will be missed.
No.
So he just shares a random one, and I'm like, I'm going to make him about history, right? So, okay, here's one. Okay, get serious.
Okay, wait.
Get serious.
Hang on. I gotta get
Constitution.
serious.
Think historical thoughts.
Dead
What
babies,
nationality did the
Constitution.
English become after they moved to Jamestown? Colonies. I thought that was good. Okay. This is my only other one that I have for my Jamestown lesson.
Yeah, that one was.
I thought that was good. Okay, here we go. This is my only other one for my Jamestown episode that I just made. What crime was Oh, I love it too.
You know I love James.
What crime was the Jamestown cannibal charged with?
Okay, give me a second to think. Crime is the Jamestown.
Assaulting his neighbor. Assaulting. Salting.
That one's bad,
That was a little
guys.
morbid, but he assaulted his neighbor.
That was so bad. I love that one. Oh my god.
I have a couple ones that are just worse, but I'm not going to even share them because they're so bad. But I hope those are some fuel for you. If your manifesto involves having fun and laughing and joking and some dad jokes, you come to the right place. Thank you for joining us on the History Teachers Club podcast. You can follow us on our Instagram at History Teachers Club. And you can follow me, Dan Luer, at history_4_humans.
And you can follow me at The Great Kate History with a C, Great Kate History on Instagram. I am also on TikTok, and yeah, those are our socials. We hope to see you back here every week. We are so excited. You guys, school is coming. That means we're going to start talking about like our actual lessons and like the really fun things we're doing in our classroom each week. So excited. Oh my gosh. So tune in next week because we're going to talk about those actable steps, those actionable things that you can do and take your manifesto.
All right, guys. Meeting adjourned. Peace out.
Awesome. Bye.
Okay, that was awesome. I think that was freaking great.